Imagine being told that everything you believed about love, attraction, and power was only scratching the surface. What if there was another layer buried so deep beneath centuries of conditioning that most people lived their entire lives without ever seeing it? Now consider this. What if Socrates himself, the father of Western philosophy, held a key to understanding a hidden dimension of women, what society has ignored, avoided, or even feared for thousands of years? This isn't just another philosophical musing. This is the kind of inquiry that can rattle the very core of how you see relationships, desire, and even yourself. It begins with one of the boldest questions ever posed. What do women truly want? And perhaps more unsettling, what role does power play in their silence? Today, we're stepping into a territory most avoid, a place that challenges old beliefs, unearths forgotten wisdom, and dares you to see reality as it is, not as you were taught. Stay until the end, because the final revelation will shift how you view love, attraction, and human connection forever. Before we dive deeper, subscribe, like this video, and share your thoughts in the comments. Your insights fuel conversations that matter, and trust me, what comes next is unlike anything you've heard before. Let's start with Socrates. He never wrote a single word himself, yet his voice still shapes the foundations of philosophy. He walked barefoot through Athens, questioning politicians, poets, and everyday citizens, always challenging the world's illusions. But there was one subject far more dangerous than politics, or even religion: the nature of women, desire, and their often invisible influence. Socrates understood this firsthand. His wife Xanthippe was famously sharp-tongued and unyielding, often clashing with him. Many dismissed her as difficult, but think about it. Would a man like Socrates with truth surround himself with someone who challenged him so fiercely unless he saw value in it? Because here's the truth. Socrates glimpsed beneath the formal structures of society. Women have always held a form of power that didn't need to be declared. Not brute force, but emotional, psychological, and social influence, quiet currents, shaping the world from behind the scenes. In public, women of ancient Athens were expected to be silent and submissive. But privately, in the home, in intimacy, in raising children and future leaders, they exercised a different kind of rule. Soft power, influence without fanfare, authority that doesn't demand attention, but controls the frame. And if you think that dynamic has vanished in modern times, think again. It still operates subtly, shaping choices, steering relationships, and molding identities, all while remaining largely unseen. Centuries later, Carl Jung describes something similar: the animate, unconscious feminine within every man's psyche. It seduces, inspires, bewilders, and completes him. But here's the catch. If a man isn't aware of it, it doesn't go away. It works in the shadows, pulling strings without his knowledge. Now, ask yourself, when this inner feminine force collides with real women, are we truly interacting with them more with projections we don't even know we're making? Most men never confront this. They stay trapped in cycles of attraction, confusion, frustration, and longing. As philosopher Alain de Botton once said, we fall in love not with those who are right for us, but with those who feel familiar. Familiar because they awaken something unresolved within us. This is where Socrates becomes dangerous. He refused to settle for surface answers. He pushed past appearances, straight into essence. When we apply that lens to desire, we're forced to ask, what truly attracts us? What are we avoiding? And how much of our longing is really about us, not them? Now picture a society where these questions are never raised, where men are taught to chase, compete, and provide, but never to understand the depths of feminine psychology. In such a world, women become symbols, mysterious, desirable, sometimes feared, rarely understood. And women, they adapt. Across generations, they learn to navigate this blindness not out of malice, but survival. The wisdom they pass down isn't always spoken. It's whispered. It's felt. It lives in intuition, in unspoken rules, in resilience. Simone de Beauvoir once wrote, "One is not born, but rather becomes a woman." This becoming unfolds within a system that rewards silence and punishes confrontation. Yet silence doesn't mean absence. It's often a strategy. And here's where it gets uncomfortable. Many women might not want this video uncovered, not because it accuses them of manipulation, but because it exposes a dynamic that quietly benefits them. The veil of mystery is power. When lifted, the game changes. But is that manipulation or adaptation? Think of nature. Animals develop camouflage not to deceive, but to survive. Humans do the same, except our adaptations play out in psychology, myth, and culture. Socrates knew that myths weren't mere stories, they carried psychological truths. And this video, it isn't about blaming anyone, it's about awakening to deeper relationships, real intimacy, and a kind of seeing that most people never reach. Socrates taught, know thyself. But knowing yourself means confronting how much of your thoughts, desires, and choices have been subtly shaped by forces you've never noticed. This is why so many men feel that something is off in relationships but can't explain it. It's not that women are hiding something, it's that we were never taught to see the invisible structure of emotional power. If Socrates were alive today, he wouldn't simply ask, what do women want? He'd ask, what assumptions about women blind you from the truth? Because the scripts we follow about dating, masculinity, success aren't really ours. They're inherited from culture, media, flawed role models. Scripts that glorify dominance, performance, and conquest, but say nothing about listening, awareness, or empathy. When you finally see, you realize, feminine power isn't a trick, it's an energy subtle, intuitive, underestimated, but incredibly potent. A single glance can shift your confidence. A moment of silence can speak volumes. Psychologist Erich Fromm called this archetype the Great Mother, not literally, but symbolically, the force of creation, chaos, nourishment, and transformation. To engage it is to face life's deepest currents: love, loss, birth, death, change, and most men are unprepared because we cling to control, logic, and directness. Yet the feminine isn't linear. It's layered, symbolic, emotional, and therein lies its strength. So, what do women truly want? Socrates wouldn't hand you an answer. He'd keep peeling back layers until the question itself dissolved. Maybe women don't want a man who knows. Maybe they want a man who sees. But truly seeing requires risk. The risk of losing certainty. The risk of facing childhood wounds and unmet needs. The risk of realizing how much of what we call attraction is programming, not freedom. Take emotional availability. Many men wonder why a deep connection suddenly cools. But ask yourself, was I truly open or just performing openness? Because women, especially those forged through emotional trials, sense the difference. When they step back, it's often not manipulation. It's preservation. In Plato's Symposium, Socrates recounts his dialogue with Diotima, a philosopher and priestess who teaches him, love is not possession, it is transformation. It begins with physical attraction but climbs toward beauty of the soul, of wisdom, and ultimately, of the eternal. This is a ladder few ever climb because it demands ego death. It asks you to drop illusions and shallow games. It reshapes not just your relationships, but you. Women often catalyze this process, sometimes unknowingly. Their presence reflects our hidden selves, our fears, vulnerabilities, and desires for meaning. And here's the hard truth: resist this. And you don't just reject her, you reject your own growth. Think back. Have you ever met someone who stirred something ancient in you? Desire mixed with fear, fascination tangled with discomfort. That wasn't random, it was a soul encounter. And whether she stayed or left, she appeared to wake you up to what you've been avoiding. This is why some fear men truly waking up. Because when a man sees clearly, illusions die. He no longer chases shadows or treats women as saviors or threats. He sees them as mirrors. Mirrors reflecting his truest self, the one beneath all the armor. This is why Socrates was considered dangerous. It wasn't because he claimed to have all the answers. It was because he dared to ask the questions that shook the foundations of belief. He made people confront the walls of their own mental prisons and forced them to ask, who built these walls? And why am I still living inside them? So now, I turn that same question toward you. What do you truly believe about women, about love, about your own heart? And are those beliefs expanding you, or keeping you small? Because the truth isn't always comfortable, but it is always freeing. And in the next part of this journey, we're going deeper into that freedom. We're going to explore the psychology of the feminine, long misunderstood, twisted, and misrepresented for centuries, and see how it holds the power to transform a man. At the deepest level, we'll examine how men can break out of old patterns of control, neediness, and projection, and finally begin to see the feminine not as a threat, not as a fantasy, but as a sacred force that pushes evolution forward. But understand this. What we're about to discuss is exactly what most men will never hear. And that's precisely why you must. There's a reason why this truth is dismissed, mocked, and ridiculed. It threatens the very structures that keep people blind, because once a man truly grasps the nature of the feminine, sees his unconscious relationship to it, illusions stop working, the manipulation falls apart, the confusion dissolves, and what takes its place? Clarity. And clarity is terrifying, because with clarity comes responsibility. You can't keep blaming others for your pain. You can't keep chasing shadows, hoping they'll somehow turn into light. And you can't keep pretending that ignorance is innocence. There's an ancient myth that illustrates this beautifully. Psyche and Eros. Psyche, the goddess of the soul, is forbidden from ever looking upon her lover's face. She's told that love must remain blind. But one night, unable to bear the mystery any longer, she lights a lamp and gazes upon Eros as he sleeps. And in that single moment, everything changes. He wakes, sees what she's done, and disappears, leaving Psyche to embark on a long, painful journey to reclaim what she lost. That story isn't just about romance, it's about the moment we choose to see clearly, the moment we leave behind our fantasies and confront reality head-on. For many men, that moment comes when they realize their relationships haven't been built on presence or awareness, but on fear, projection, and old wounds. Carl Jung explained this through the concept of the anima, the inner feminine, that lives in every man's psyche. When a man is unconscious of his anima, it controls him. He searches for her outside of himself. He idealizes women. He resents them when they fail to match his fantasy. And he repeats this cycle over and over, never understanding why he doesn't love the woman in front of him. He loves the idea of her. But when he brings the anima into awareness, something profound happens. He no longer needs someone else to complete him. He becomes whole. And only then can he love, not from desperation, but from truth. This is what Socrates hinted at in his dialogues, what Plato carried forward, what mystics across cultures have always understood, that love, at its highest level, is a path to self-realization. But this path is not crowded. Most settle for comfort, for validation, for convenience. They choose safety over depth. But safety isn't love, it's familiarity. And familiarity is often just the echo of old wounds. How many times have you stayed in something not because it was right, but because it was familiar? How many times have you mistaken being wanted for being truly seen? How many times have you chased someone, thinking they would heal your emptiness, only to watch that emptiness grow even larger? This isn't weakness, it's human, but the time for pretending is over. Because when men truly awaken, they start to see what was always there. They begin to see the feminine, not as a puzzle to solve, but as a living force and energy, an intelligence that moves through emotion, intuition, and presence. It can't be controlled, it can only be respected. And here's what few will admit. Many women, consciously or unconsciously, will test you, not to hurt you, but to see if you can hold that force. Not through logic, but through energy, through contradiction, even through chaos. Can you stay centered when she storms? Can you hold space when she unravels? Can you see through the layers, not to fix her, but to love her more deeply? This isn't easy. It demands a different kind of strength, not brute force, but emotional sovereignty. Not dominance, but depth, and above all, a presence that can't be faked. Because women, especially those deeply connected to their feminine essence, feel everything. They know when you're hiding. They know when your smile is just a mask. They know when you're present and when you've checked out. And that's why, for an unprepared man, the feminine can be terrifying, because she sees straight through you, not to shame you, but to call you into authenticity. In the ancient mystery schools, initiation wasn't just about knowledge, it was about death and rebirth. The ego had to die so the soul could rise, and often that death came through an encounter with the feminine, not with a woman herself, but with what she represents, the unknown, the emotional, the irrational, the transformative. Modern culture has erased this wisdom. It reduces women to roles and labels. It turns men into performers, always chasing, always proving, never resting. But what men truly need is rest, not physical rest, but inner stillness. Stillness to listen, to feel, to witness the feminine without fear or control. Only from that stillness can real connection happen. Socrates taught through questions, not because he lacked answers, but because he knew answers mean nothing unless you discover them yourself. He wasn't here to impress anyone, he was here to free them. So I ask you, are you living from reaction or from revelation? When a woman challenges you, do you shut down or lean in? When you feel inadequate, do you attack, withdraw, or reflect? When love feels distant, do you chase harder or do you go inward? Every moment is a test, not from her, from life itself. And if you pass not through perfection, but through presence, you step into a realm few ever reach, a realm where love is not possession, but partnership, where intimacy is not just physical, but soulful, where women are not objects of desire, but mirrors that awaken you. And when you reach this space, the games end, the performance ends, the confusion ends, and in its place, a new vision begins, one that reshapes not just how you love, but who you are. This is the vision men have feared and longed for across history, and in the next part, we confront it fully, because what comes next is the ultimate truth, the truth. Most men never hear the truth that once seen can never be unseen. Everything so far has been preparation, peeling away illusions, breaking down the false stories we've inherited about love, power, and women. Now, we step into the truth that changes everything, not the truth written in books, the truth that vibrates in your bones, the truth that liberates or shatters, you. Socrates taught that wisdom begins in knowing your own ignorance, that true strength is not in controlling others, but in mastering yourself, and when it comes to the feminine, not just women, but the eternal feminine, this is exactly where most men falter. Here's the uncomfortable reality. Men are not afraid of women, they're afraid of what women awaken. Inside them, they fear being vulnerable, being truly seen, being called into their own depth. Because when you meet a woman who sees straight through youth, there's nowhere left to hide. She doesn't care about your money, your status, your image. She feels your integrity or your emptiness. She doesn't test you to control you. She tests to call your soul forward. And if you can't hold yourself, you can't hold her. Here's what most women will never say out loud, but every one of them feels: they are not waiting for perfect men. They are waiting for present men. Men who won't run from emotion. Men who won't flinch when challenged. Men who won't collapse when intimacy turns real. Because the deepest feminine longing is not to dominate you, but to be fully met by you, felt, heard, seen, not as a role or obligation, but as a living mystery. And here's the paradox. When you try to conquer her, you lose yourself. When you meet her, you find yourself. Society has taught men to perform, to chase approval, to pile up achievements, but none of that touches the soul. Power without presence is hollow. Success without depth is empty. And relationships without truth, they are prisons dressed up as pleasure. This is where you must choose: control or connection, performance or presence, comfort or truth. Because truth will burn it, will strip away your illusions. It will dismantle the small self you've been clinging to. But in those ashes, a new man is born. A man who doesn't beg for love, but radiates it. A man who doesn't seek to impress, but inspires effortlessly. A man who doesn't just study philosophy, lives it. This man is dangerous, not because he seeks power over anyone, but because he cannot be manipulated. He sees clearly, he chooses consciously. Women are drawn to him, not because he flatters them, but because his presence frees them. Because here's the truth: the feminine doesn't want a slave, she wants a mirror strong enough to reflect her chaos, her beauty, her rage, her depth, and hold it without flinching. That kind of man is rare, because he is forged not in comfort, but in fire. And now the choice is yours. You can turn away, you can go back to the old patterns, the illusions, the games. You can begin the inner revolution, the one Socrates embodied, the one Jung mapped, the one women feel, but rarely voice. The revolution of presence, not just in love, but in every moment of your life. Can you stand fully here, even when it hurts, when your partner is in pain, when your child is afraid, when your dreams fall apart, when your own heart cracks open? Can you breathe? Can you still choose love over fear? This is the power no one can give you and no one can take away. It is the awakening women hope you discover, not because they fear it, but because it changes everything. That changes how you see them, how you love them, how you honor them, and how you finally honor yourself. This is not the end, it's the beginning of a new, live a life rooted in truth, anchored in presence, free from illusion. Socrates didn't fear death Because he had already died to illusion, he lived fully, he questioned deeply, he loved wisdom more than comfort. And now, that same question comes to you. Will you awaken, or will you stay asleep safe in performance, untouched by truth? The door is open, but only the brave ever step through. And now, you know exactly where it is.